Good morning. Our chicks that hatched in February are now 22 weeks old, and they have been laying eggs for about a month. They usually start laying eggs around 18 weeks of age, or they can start laying eggs around 18 weeks of age, and ours started right about that. So they've been laying for a few weeks. I didn't share that. I did share a post on our Facebook with some of those, and I'll show a picture at the end of this video with some of those first eggs. But I wanted them to get a little bit more consistent. We try to check their eggs every morning, or check the boxes every morning and every evening to see if there are eggs in there. We don't want to leave them in there too long, because then the chickens might start to peck at them, break them, etc. So we usually check first thing in the morning, and we check in the evening to see if there's any eggs. Chickens will lay when they're consistent. When they get going, they'll lay eggs about once a day. Our girls are still a little new to laying eggs, so we don't necessarily have eggs every morning and every evening. And the eggs we are getting are kind of small. So we do have 3 eggs this morning. There's 1 in there, and there's 2 down there. And they usually seem to find some boxes that are their favorites. So I'll check all of the boxes, and I did when I first came out to make sure there were some. But they usually tend to lay in the same boxes over and over. So here's one of our chickens. She's checking out what I'm doing. One of our hens. So they love to get on their roosts. We hatched 12 chickens in February, and then I got another one from a lady, so I had 13. Of those 12 that hatched, 6 of them were roosters, which is not the best for a coop. We got rid of 2, and we're going to get rid of at least 2 more, because if you have too many roosters in your house, they tend to fight, get very aggressive, and so we don't need that many roosters. We're going to, like I said, we're going to get rid of 2 more. There's one. There's one over there. That's one. That's one, because he's crowing. And then there's one right there. And they crow a lot, especially this one and this one. So let me go ahead and get these. She's very curious about what I'm doing. Let me go ahead and get these eggs out so you can see what they look like. So we have some that are kind of a dark green, greenish brown. And I'm going to go ahead and set that right there. And then we have several that are laying kind of a brown, light brown egg. They are small right now. As you can see, they kind of look a little smaller than an average egg that you would get at the grocery store. And that's the way they start out. The first several months that chickens lay eggs, that hens lay eggs, they are kind of small. As they get a little older, their eggs will get bigger. We don't have any chickens that lay, or any hens that lay white eggs, so most of ours are coming out this kind of lighter brown and this more green brown color. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move over here. We started feeding our hens and our larger chickens what we call layer feed, or layer pellets. And it's just because it has the oyster strongs in them, oyster shell, which helps makes their shells stronger. And so that's what we are feeding them. Now we do have some baby chicks. Well, they're more like teenage chicks now. They're about 9 weeks old. They hatched the end of May. And we are keeping them in this box separate from the larger chickens, because they're smaller, and we don't want the larger chickens to pick on the younger ones. We do have one that we've put up here separate. This one, we came out a couple days ago, and this one was hurt. Its leg seemed out of place. So we're keeping it separate, giving it some extra vitamins, some extra medicine, and seeing if we can get that leg strong again. When we first pulled that chicken out, the larger chickens were kind of picking on it. So we quickly got it into a separate one. But that just reinforced that we are not quite ready to put these smaller chickens into the larger house with the larger chickens. So those are our girls and our 4 roosters. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and find a new home for 2 of the roosters, because there's a very good chance in these smaller, there's 8 smaller ones, there's a very good chance there's at least 1 rooster in that group too. Now we do have some smaller ones. This little white one right here is a silky. This one will stay smaller. And then those 2 back there are like this one in here, and those are a Sea Bright mix. Those will also stay smaller than the other chickens we have, than all of these. And it's just a breed of chicken, and they just don't grow as big as these. We're still giving them some medicated water. At least one of these things is usually a medicated water, and it just gives them some extra vitamins, some extra probiotics to keep them healthy. And we'll do that for a while, especially when we start to introduce these smaller chickens into the mix, because that's stressful on them, and we want them to have that extra nutrition. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put these eggs in the box to take inside. One thing I always like to point out to people about eggs, freshly laid eggs do not need to be refrigerated. When the chicken lays the egg, when the hen lays the egg, there is a protective coating on them that we call the bloom. And that bloom protects the egg and keeps it fresh so that you don't have to refrigerate them. And you can leave them out unwashed for 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Once you wash them, you must refrigerate them, because you've washed off that protective coating, and now they can go bad if they are not refrigerated. That is why the eggs that you get at the store, they have been washed and cleaned before they were sorted into their cartons, so they always need to be refrigerated when you bring them from the store. But if you're getting eggs from hens that you might have in your backyard, or from a friend that has some hens, they don't need to be washed as long as, they don't need to be refrigerated as long as they have not been washed. Now, they're going to be dirty because they've been in nests, and so before you do eat them, you want to make sure you wash them, because you want to get all that dirt off of them. But just do it right before you're going to crack them open and eat those eggs. And that protects you from a disease called salmonella that you can get from chickens. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put these eggs in the carton so I can take them inside. I'll check again this evening to see if we have any eggs. And I'm going to stop the video for just a minute, and I'm going to get outside the house, the hen house or the chicken coop, and show you a few more things. So alright, I just wanted to show y'all kind of our whole setup we have here. This is our chicken coop. And we have this box over here that we kind of keep their food, some shavings in, just to keep them out of the chicken coop as much as possible. Usually this bag is in there, but we've been feeding them. Part of that is covered, and that is to protect them from the rain and the elements. Now, we did end up adding a floor from, if you watched earlier videos, there may not have been a floor in there. We've had a very rainy season, as most of y'all that live in the Brazoria County area know. And apparently we built our house in a little bit lower spot, so there was a lot of water. So we built that floor up to kind of get them out of the water. All right, we are also in the process of building a chicken run, and this is about 24 feet long and 8 feet wide, and we're going to cover that whole thing with chicken wire. And this is something that we can let the chickens out during the day so they can get some exercise, peck around in the grass. We're going to put some sand in this area. We will put a little doorway right here, and so during the day we can open that door and the chickens can come out and run, get some exercise. But then at night we will put them back in and shut that door so that they're in the house at night. And that's just for protection, and usually they like to roost and sleep at night anyways, so they don't need to be running around. This is also a good way for us to go ahead and introduce the littler chickens during the day. We can put the bigger chickens out here. The littler chickens can come out at night, during the day, and then at night we can kind of put them back in that house, put the bigger chickens back in this house, and it still keeps them separate but gives the littler chickens more room to run until everybody gets used to each other, and then we will mix the two flocks all the time. We'll also put a gate on the outside here so we can get in to clean up this area of the chicken run. And like I said, there will be some sand in there. The chickens like to eat that sand. It gives them some roughage in their stomach to help break down food. We also sometimes have some extra oyster shell that we'll keep separate that they can eat if their bodies are needing that extra oyster shell to give that calcium. That's calcium that helps with their eggs. And so their bodies naturally know, hey, I need more calcium. They'll go and they'll eat that oyster shell. But there is some oyster shell in the pellets that we're feeding them. The smaller chickens, we're still feeding them the starter grower food that we started feeding them as soon as they hatched. And we'll keep doing that for about 10 more weeks until they're about 18 weeks of age, and that's when we will switch them all over to the layer food, because that's when they start laying eggs and they need that extra calcium and other vitamins and minerals that help their eggs to stay strong and their shells to be strong. So that is our chicken house, and I just wanted to kind of point that out to you so you know what we're doing. So as I said, our larger chickens that hatched in February are now 22 weeks old. Our smaller chickens that we hatched the end of May are, I think, 9 weeks old now, if I counted right. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at deanfuchs16@gmail.com, and I'll put a little slide at the end of this video with my email address. I'd love to answer any of your questions that you might have about the chickens. And we'll keep checking in on them, and as their eggs get bigger and they get a little bit more consistent and that in laying their eggs, I will share that with you when we introduce the little chicks, the younger chicks with the bigger chickens. I'll show you that. So I will keep giving y'all updates on these chickens as they grow. Have a good day.